main screen. Nate, take it away.
Hi. Hello, loyal audience. Welcome to the ALCast. ALCast. My name's
Alk.
Nathan, and yep, hello. You guys want to do names?
Sure. I'm Allan.
I'm Chris.
I'm Justin.
Okay. Yeah. So what I've got tonight, it's almost like a combination of like topic and news. I guess like yeah, I'm kind of curious like where what the different audience is, what the different exposure that different people have to this, but like in the world of like there's a few things overlapping, like in the world of like AI and in the world of like generative art and in the world of I guess just art in general. There is this like crazy thing that's happened, and we even talked about it before, but there's been like a big development. So there's this open source tool called Stable Diffusion, and they published all their source code maybe like a couple months ago. But just within like the last week or maybe week or two, not only have they published like the software, but they also published the set of weights, and that's like what they had to spend all their computer time training. They published like the result of all their training, and I think it was something like $600,000 worth of training, which is like a lot cheaper than some of the other ones, but like still like way more than what I was willing to do myself, like or even could have done myself, right? So yeah, they published that, and now like if you want to run that Stable Diffusion with those weights, you can like type prompts in your computer, and you can get back out like what you put in as a prompt, and like there's different people doing different kinds of experiments with it. And yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's kind of scary. I think there's lots of implications, and it's like kind of like the tip of the iceberg of like stuff that's probably just gonna change a lot of things. So I guess first is like to open up the floor for like impressions.
Well, I'd like you to explain like two things real quick. What's the difference between them putting the source code out for everything versus them just putting like an application out? And then could you also explain what the weights are? And
Right.
then I guess also explain what they had to train for that $600,000.
So yeah, I guess so when you're talking about publishing an application, typically that means like kind of giving people a binary that they can run. And then if you're going to be publishing a binary, you have to make some assumptions about like what they're going to be running it on. So that's tends to be like if you're developing software, like publishing binaries, that tends to be one of the last things. But along the way, you can just kind of easily just distribute source code because that's just what you have anyway. So you're like, okay, like I don't know what to make a binary for. I don't know what platform you're running, but this is my source code, and you can just have it. And then so that just like releasing source code is just like more common for projects in development, just because like they don't have to make any assumptions to release it. And then so when you're going to talk about what is the weights versus like what's the difference between publishing the weights and publishing the source code, there's this really great XKCD comic where he just explains what machine learning is, and he says like, okay, so like basically like you have this giant pile of linear algebra, and you like every time it's wrong, you like poke it with the stick. You keep on poking it with a stick, and eventually like the pile of linear algebra becomes like less wrong for what you're trying to do. So basically like the source code would be like the guy poking it with the stick.
Mm-hmm.
That's what publishing the source code would be. It's like, okay, so you can take like a random pile of linear algebra and poke it with a stick. But the weights is like after they've poked it with a stick for like $600,000 worth of computer
Stick poking,
cycles.
yeah.
Then it's like the result of that, and that's kind of what you wanted to get from all the stick poking to begin with. So it's like that's unless you're in a position where you can duplicate that, like without publishing the weights, you can't really use it.
Yeah, like
as well.
How do they even quantify that? Is that like cloud computing time? Is that like electricity? Is that
Cloud computing time. Yeah, that's.
No, literally
I think that's just exactly how they do it.
okay? Like, is that someone like actually going through? Wait, what am I fixing, Chan? Oh, am I too loud?
What?
Sorry, Chance typing in chat. Take it down 35%.
I turned you down. You should be fine.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, what was I saying? Yeah. Like, is that someone manually training it, like for like I don't know, $600,000 worth of hours on GPU time, or what? What like? How do you even quantify that?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm guessing what they probably did is they probably had some kind of cluster. Like a lot of big training jobs happen on Slurm, which stands for wow, I should really know this. Like simple Linux like resource manager. Is that right? I don't know.
Simple Linux utility for resource management.
I was close. Okay, given that I like it's like what I do for work. It's like respectably close up. Um, and um, And so basically, it's actually what people run on like HPCs. That's kind of the origin of Slurm. Like if at your college there was like an HPC. HPCs are basically just like a bunch of computers in a network with some specialized networking hardware maybe. And then it's really not so different from just like a data center. And then so you can run like HPC software on a data center, and then the data center just becomes like a supercomputer, kind of the same thing. And that, yeah, I don't know. That could be more or less true depending on like what hardware is in the data center. And yeah, so you probably have like that running, and then you just like farm out like your training job to like however many nodes, and then you just like take your cloud bill at the end of all that and just say like it costs this much.
Well, yeah, but like in terms of like humans working on it, like is that just like a bunch of students like clicking through and saying yes or no to like this is a good picture, this is a bad picture?
Oh no. So I think yeah, the start of the process is scraping for this thing specifically. They'd be scraping a bunch of images and captions, and I think they just take as much as they can get from everywhere, and then so any kind of labeled picture, or maybe they are even doing the labels. I actually don't know, but you need images with labels, and then like the way the training works is like it'll start. They actually start with a whole nother neural network. They start with a neural network that decodes the caption. And that's like a problem somebody else solved. They're not training that network, it's just frozen. That's just sort of like a Lego brick that they're building on top of, and they're not like, messing with it.
So they have like a separate trainer network that's training the new AI, basically, right?
Well, yeah, the separate network is decoding the captions just so that there's some representation of the captions that the network they are training can understand. And then starting from that, they'll generate an image. And then depending on how closely that image, well, I actually don't know exactly the training algorithm they're using. Like, there are some that I do know. I know this one has this name called stable diffusion. I actually don't know like what that means. But in the past, they've done things where like, they've had like some kind of adversarial process where it's like one network will try to fool the other one, and they'll freeze one, and then the one that they'll freeze they call it like the discriminator and the generator. So the generator will try to generate images that fool the discriminator. So it's like given a caption like a picture of Elmo, it's like first like the generator will be able to fool the discriminator just by making something like a red blob. And then they freeze the generator, unfreeze the discriminator. The discriminator then tries to learn the difference between the red blob the generator is making and actual pictures of Elmo. And it trains and trains and trains until it can actually do that. And then once the discriminator can tell the difference again, then you freeze the discriminator, then you unfreeze the generator, and the generator learns to fool the discriminator again. And eventually it converges to a point where like the generator output is just the same as the real samples. Does that make sense?
I think so.
You're describing a generative adversarial network.
That's right. Yeah. But so that's a different example of this kind of technology. I think stable diffusion doesn't necessarily do that. I don't know what they do, but that's like the kind of thing that they'd be doing.
Well, I mean, it's a type of learning, right? It's not really like what the Stable Diffusion is doing in creating it, but it's how it would train it, like how it would
Right.
learn.
Yeah. It's like what's happening during like the training process where they're spending a lot
So
of money.
does that mean when you take the weights as they're already provided and pull them out into your specific instance of this AI, is it no longer learning? It
No.
can no
Yeah.
longer learn because it doesn't have that discriminator network in there to
Excellent question, Christopher.
tell it when
Yeah,
something's wrong.
the weight, once you get the weights out and you start doing inference, that like after training, that's when you start doing inference. And once you do the inference step, it's frozen. It's just like a hammer, right? Like it's like
It's just
people
a
have to
tool
learn how
at
to
that
make
point.
the hammer, and then they start like stamping out hammers, like, and then
It's
they go ahead.
It sounds like the network that would creating the adversarial network that would actually train the AI seems a lot more powerful than the AI itself. Right?
Well,
I guess it's just because it's two of them. It's two computers who are trying to trick each other.
I mean, the ability to sort of get them to do a new thing definitely is powerful, but that's also the stuff that's super expensive. Because it just takes like millions and millions of like attempts at that to get anything like meaningful out on the other side. And so yeah, since they have published their source code and they publish their weights, which means the stuff doing the training, that is actually part of what they published. So you actually could, if you kind of hook it up the right way, you could take the weights that they call it a checkpoint actually, because like when they're working with it, like they'll take checkpoints through the process of training it, and you can resume from the checkpoint and you can start training. Even you could even like get your own custom data set and sort of resume from a checkpoint, and try to tune it or something. But like that's when it's going to start getting expensive if you really want it to get like a new kind of behavior out of it. You
Yeah.
might need like a correspondingly like large amount of compute time.
Interesting. So is it still an artificial intelligence by the time it gets to you, if it's no longer learning?
I think so. I think so just because like yeah, I think like there's just so much there's so much in that set of weights. Like kind of spooky. Like it just it knows how to make so many pictures, right? Like I mean there's you can tell it to make a bad drawing, it'll make a bad drawing. You can tell it to make a masterpiece, it'll try. And then for some things I'd say it actually can do it. It's just like
I remember the pictures you sent us. You spent like a whole night just like you sent
Yeah, it was cool.
like 30 pictures or something.
I've still been doing that. Like I haven't been doing it every night because I haven't had time, but when I've had time, I've just been doing that. Yeah. So there's some stuff like kind of going like one level, going a little bit deeper into how it works. There's some cool stuff you can start to do. What I'm looking at right now is actually kind of the point between where the network that's decoding the text and the network that's generating the image. I'm trying to look at like where that handoff is happening and what I can do like at that kind of handoff point. Basically whatever text you put in, you get like a vector on the other side. Like that's like how it works. And then but so basically the
Vector like vector imaging or vector like vector something else?
Vector meaning like
or just like the math equation.
So when I say vector, I guess I just mean like a point with like a lot of dimensions, right? So it's like if you have like an XY like plane, you can have a vector for that plane that would just be like an XY coordinate.
Sure.
But if you have 3 dimensions, then you can have a vector in that space that's that's like, well, it's 1 coordinate in 3 dimensions. And then you can just keep on going. Like there's no limit to how many dimensions you could have, and there's no limit to how many numbers you would have in your coordinate. So when you get like lots and lots and lots of numbers in the coordinate, that's when you call it like a vector. Well, but really they're all vectors. But so So basically what happens is like whatever sentence you put in, you get like an arrow pointing a certain way in like a giant space. So it's like one sentence like prehistoric Stone Age settlement, like that would be an arrow pointed this way. And then like another sentence would be futuristic space colony, and that would be an arrow pointed this way. And then what you can actually do is you can kind of find a third arrow that's like halfway in between the two.
Just like modern day city.
Right. And yeah, so that's what I was trying to do last night. I was trying to get it to like what I actually want is I want to get it to do stuff that's like doesn't make sense or that's impossible. I want to have like one thing and then another thing that like but they like contradict each other or something. And then I want to like see what it tries to do in the middle. And like sometimes it just breaks like I was doing like black plates and white plates, and then like in the middle would just be like a gray plate, and then I did like black car, white car, and then in the middle there's a gray car. But when I did red car and blue car, it actually couldn't figure out the color in between the two. It had like this weird like thing that wasn't a car that was like part like red like thing like on top of like a blue thing. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. There's people doing like more interesting stuff. Honestly, like there's people that are like trying to animate smoothly, but I'm just trying to play with the inputs. Really, that's like what I've been doing.
Yeah, animation seems like an insane task, but maybe it's easier than I think it is.
So,
I mean, well, can't you just like put in a bunch of art words? Like, can't you just be like, you know, X, Y, and Z? Like, I don't know what is it like chiaroscuro and like mosaic and like fresco and all that sort of stuff, and then see it try and like do all these different art styles and play with shadows in all these different ways. I think that's, or like being like, you know, the sun but you know full of shadows or something like that. Just mess with like the opposites, right?
Yeah, I mean, like there's all kinds of questions you could ask that way. It's like you could ask for it to make the sun, and you could ask for it to make the moon. That one problem that actually is a little bit challenging though is that like if you give it really simple prompts, sometimes it actually just like doesn't seem to work that well. I don't know, like so
we have a question from chat. What dictates the direction that these phrases, what is it? What dictates the directions of these phrases in three-dimensional space?
No, yeah. So the three-dimensional space is actually just like an analogy. The actual number of dimensions is more like it's actually like hundreds of thousands of them. But like I couldn't even try to imagine. So like, but the idea of like a arrow in that space, the same principle applies. Just from going from 2 to 3, just like you go from 2 to 3, it goes from like 3 to like 600,000 or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now that you've laid the groundwork on what this is, what, pray tell, what would you like to discuss?
So yeah, I suppose I know some people, and they're making a game, and the guy making the game is contracting a friend, and she's doing the artwork for the game. And I know that like for a lot of people, individual art, like this technology seems like, I don't know. I guess that most people probably think it's a pretty bad thing.
You think most
people
Yeah.
or most artists
Most artists.
think it's a bad thing?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they think it's a bad thing.
Most artists, I don't most artists or most digital artists, because I don't think this really matters that much for physical artists, because those are, I would almost say that like you might as well be talking about like painters and musicians, in my opinion, versus like hand drawers, hand painters versus digital artists. I think they're two completely different skill sets. You gotta have the same like vision for what you're doing, but
I mean, sort of like you have people that draw for a living, right?
sure.
Like I think 20 years ago, I think there were probably more people that drew for a living. Like that people would just draw like, I don't know, book covers, like just like
Sure. Hand drawing.
people like eating apples at a table or something, right? And now all those book covers are just stock photos. So everyone that was drawing book covers before probably isn't drawing those now, and the labor force is reduced. And I think this is going to be a similar kind of effect if people can just like instantly, well, not instantly, but like close to instantly generate whatever they want at any given time.
So yeah, you can.
I don't think it matters though, because you have to generate vector images for commercially viable stuff. You have to be able to scale it infinitely.
Yeah, but you can kind of feed that in to the.
Nate was saying it costs like fucking 30 grand to generate something in 4K.
Well, so the algorithm to actually generate it, if you just put in like that resolution, the algorithm just doesn't scale. But there's other ways to scale the image that are like way cheaper. Like in that would be using like the algorithm to originally generate it at really high resolution. But what probably makes more sense is to like generate it at 512 by 512, and then just upsample it, because there's other ways to do that.
I mean, I guess if that works, I don't know, but I mean, I think like everything else, you know, once tech gets somewhere and once something is scalable, yeah, it'll put people out of work. But I mean, that's just how it is.
Well, so
It's like
I was
the
trying.
horse and buggy and car situation.
I was trying to make the introduction between her and this technology in a way that would like feel empowering, and they're actually in what they publish. There is such a tool that like I feel like if you wanted to look at it this way, like you could. I feel like they've given you like the opportunity there, where it's not just text to image. They also have an image, or they also have an image to image mode, where you actually put in an input image. And then you also have a prompt, and then it will like modify the input image, and you can control by what degree it modifies the input image. Like you can kind of like crank it up or down.
Interesting.
So then I feel like if you're a visual artist, then it's not just completely replacing your workflow. Like what it's actually doing is like giving you like something that you can bring into the process and iterate. Where it's like, okay, I'm feeding it this, I'm kind of cranking this knob, I'm getting this, and then it's like. I guess like, and what I would encourage like artists to do is something that like technologists have done a long time ago, and that is kind of definitely like depersonalize like any kind of ego related to like the tool, or what am I even trying to say? It's like it's considered to be like an achievement if you learn like a lot of skills related to like kind of these like the dexterity to draw and like the blah blah blah, but like. From the perspective of technology, it's really like you're trying to facilitate like an outcome with whatever is available. Like that's just what you're doing, right? And it's
like it kind of makes that whole skill set of like muscle memory just completely obsolete, right?
Yes, but I would argue that where they're really adding value is not necessarily muscle memory, but it's like just being the part of the process that kind of knows the visual direction where you're trying to go. And you know like what you're trying to bring to a project.
Yeah.
And then it's like and the muscle memory is just a way you can get there. So if from that perspective, like if you can actually bring something in your process, now you're actually greatly accelerated, right? And if you already have that sense of where you're going to be bringing that value into projects, like this is actually completely multiplying what you can do. And sure, people can like kind of type away in prompts, you make flashy looking images, but like it's going to be kind of directionless, I think. I don't think you're going to see like
you can just start making high level art, like kind of like with fighting games. You spend like a really large amount of time like just figuring out how to push the buttons at the right times to do the combos, like just build that muscle memory, right? And then once you have that muscle memory built, then you can start actually playing the fighting game where like you're fighting an opponent who already knows the muscle memory and stuff and can just like put in the inputs. That's like the fun part, right? So you can just skip with art. You don't have to draw anymore. You can just skip to the fun part. But even then, I would still argue that that's going to result in like a big labor force reduction. Right?
I mean, I think it's just going to be the people that want to pick it up. Like, it's going to be the people that want to pick it up, and like I think you can really multiply like your output. And honestly, the same thing's true with coding now. Like I think the GitHub Copilot's kind of a similar situation with coding. And
Oh
some
my
people
God.
some
Yeah.
people are kind of like poo-pooing it, but like I mean, it wasn't really the hard part. Like it kind of was, but it wasn't really the hard part. The hard part was like figuring out where that's fitting in like a larger context already, right? So like I don't know, like
Yeah. For reference, the GitHub Copilot stuff is like it's AI to write code. So like you can put in the name of a function, like function adds a plus b, and then it'll write the whole function where it takes in a, it takes in b, and then adds them together and gives you the result. And it'll write all that for you, and then you might have to like tweak it a little bit to figure out the rest. And I think that's going to be potentially a big labor force reduction as well. Although I think I would argue less for it.
Isn't that kind of the point to a lot of this too? Is to get to that point where we can have a labor force reduction, where we can have most jobs or most things being done by artificial things rather than people. Like if we could replace all of Amazon workers with drones that move the boxes and take care of that, like the physical labor side of it, isn't that a benefit, like a net benefit? Obviously, we as a people don't have, like in America especially, don't have a way to, support the rest of humanity. But I think that's like the first step, is that realizing we can replace a lot of these jobs or replace a lot of these things with AI labor instead.
Yeah. Like I would argue that we should move toward a post-scarcity society where, like, right now we have scarcity in the labor force, right? That's why some people make more money than others, because those jobs are in demand and the labor force isn't there. The more we move toward a post-scarcity society, I think there's going to be some winners and losers that come out in the middle of that process. And we got to figure out how to accommodate the losers in that situation.
I mean, I think the accommodation for the losers is that's like the whole point of UBI. Like you just tax all the AI. It's like, all right, you want to make $100 billion from this? We'll tax you $50 billion. Keep the rest. $50 billion goes into the system, and it gives everyone money. And then, I guess the whole idea with like UBI is like everyone gets some base money and then make as much as you want, like with whatever unique skills you have. I don't think we're ever going to get to like a post-scarcity society where no one's skills are valuable except for the fucking AI.
There'll always be valuable skills, especially in, like they're saying, with direction. Like there's only a certain extent that you can train an artificial intelligence, and that's on things that have come before. I would like to see the specific like creations of them, the specific like progression of those AI, because you'll still need people to have to deal with the creative side of it, to deal with like what do we actually want this thing to do, or how are we going to do it, or coming up with the idea of like what need we now need to fill, right? Because that's where a lot of like tools and products in general come from. They come from we have a need that we're trying to fill. Somebody creates an object or an item or a method that suits that need, and then that spawns a new product or progress.
Yeah.
And,
good.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's the direction everything goes. My fear is that like we're going to be leaving a lot of people behind in that process. Like, if you want to make a good salary now, you got to know so much shit. Like, if you want to do, I don't know, like what's a good paying salary? Like, if you want to be a doctor, you got to know so much shit about the human body. You got to know how like medicine works. You got to know all this other shit. Like 100 years ago, if you wanted a good paying job, you need to know how to put like seeds in the ground
together
and then like collect them at the end of that. Like you didn't need to know a whole lot.
But I mean, the whole point of it is to get rid of the need for a high-paying job. Like the whole point of moving in this direction is to entirely get rid of that need to have a high-paying job. Like Allan's saying, even in a post-scarcity society, there's a value in luxury there's especially luxury items and luxury experiences, like, and saying that you are going to benefit like whatever community or country you're living in with a UBI to allow people to live, like rent a place, to have food, to be able to like get around, then anything above that is luxury. It's addition.
Yeah.
It's stuff that you would still want. Like, I would still do my job if there was a UBI and I didn't need to do my job to like survive. I would still do it because I, one, enjoy the work that I'm doing. It's like, that's the human race has this forward momentum like built into a lot of them. They want to do something, and I think that a lot of people will continue to do jobs out of desire to do them, out of desire to make something, or out of just desire to like have additional cash to do additional things with.
Well,
Yeah, and I agree with all that.
Well, there's a possibility. There's two. One thing that I haven't mentioned that maybe I have some duty to. I'll get to that later. But first, I'm not even sure. Like, I don't know. Maybe with the economics of how these things go, like you would expect a job force reduction, but like it seems to me an alternative that could happen is you could just have the same amount of artists, but they just all be accelerated. And then like instead of having art constrained to like just a few parts of our society and a few products, it would just be literally everywhere. You could have like a unique image on every service, and like you could just have the same number of artists, but just the productivity of all of them could be multiplied. Like that seems.
How do you? Can you explain that a little bit about how you think this would help accelerate an artist? Let's talk about just like a general UI artist. This person's like creating buttons and stuff for UI.
So say that they have like some idea that they want to explore. I think it's like right now they start sketching and then they'd add layers and then they'd like do shading and contouring. I don't know all the terms, but like they kind of build it up layer by layer. So now what you could do is like you could sketch and you could like run it through this and then like just get some outputs. And then like you can even do this process where like you're like, okay, this part's good. I don't know about this part. It made something weird here. Just like erase that part and like just for that part, like run it again and have it like fill it in. And then like, so you can use the same kind of guiding sense of like where you want it to go, but you're just kind of like iterating a lot faster. Like you're like, you don't have to like construct, you don't have to do it like, so you don't have to do it like stroke.
You have like a partner. It's like having like an assist AI partner. And this is what I'm going for with this. Can you like sketch something out so that I can see what it would look like? And then you can create the actual version of it that's used.
Well, I think you can keep on iterating this way and get your final version that way, because it's like it'd probably be some combination of the two. You could add, you just like, okay, I really want a little thing here, and you add that, and then it's like, okay, it made something weird here, but maybe you could make something else. Then you just delete that and see if it like I don't know. Depending on how much control you wanted or like didn't want, you could go from like a little bit faster to a lot faster. I guess it depends what you're trying to do. And then there's the extreme case where like you can literally just type in prompts and pull stuff out of it. Like, so that might be like, that's clearly way faster, and that's not necessarily going to like replace doing something more targeted or more like, or something where you need like a consistent theme. But just like a one-off, you could just pull something right out of it. So
yeah, I mean we've made leaps like this before in technology, especially with, and just in a media standpoint as well. But animation used to be all hand drawn, everything from the characters to the background. Now a lot of things are rendered through computer, or they create like concepts, and then the concepts are used or reused or artificially generated into something else. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. That's definitely a perfect use case for something like this that wouldn't replace the workforce but supplement it.
And that would be cool to see. Although, yeah, so the one thing that maybe is worth mentioning that I kind of glossed over is the fact that like there really might be like a big intellectual property issue with it. Like
Chat was mentioning that. Chat was mentioning like the copyright and all the sort of stuff that happens with this.
There's a few things that are kind of funny that'll happen. Like sometimes like it will actually just start signing its work with some garbled like signature. but the only reason it would do that is because like it's like an actual person signing an actual piece of work, right? Like, and then just kind of remembering like, oh, like art has signatures, and it's just like
Sometimes
hallucinating.
people sign art.
But it's like that's kind of evidence that it's like just ingesting a lot of this stuff. Like, and I also I was trying to figure out, like, I was kind of trying to steer it, and like some of the best art ever, in my opinion. Like, maybe there's a certain style of art that I like, but I really like the art style on like trading cards, Magic the Gathering cards in particular. So I was just trying to see if I could get it to do that. And like what I ended up doing was I ended up just adding like illustration by Johannes Voss at the end of every prompt I gave it. And like one thing that's crazy is that like it didn't actually work. Like you can definitely still tell the difference between one of his illustrations and one of the things that I was generating. But it did definitely make it better though. So like I don't know, that's just kind of funny that like that it knows like who Johannes Voss is. Or maybe it's just the fact that it's by somebody at all.
Is this any different than like being inspired by, or like an artist that's inspired by a specific piece of work or a specific artist before? Like we see a lot of it in comic books. Comic books have artists all the time that are like, this person's whole style is based off of like what he learned from, you know, whatever predecessor that he studied. Is this any different than that? Like, would you say that person is copywriting to, or that person is like?
That's a really good question. Like, if it is different from that, it's different in like a new way that like hasn't really been explored before. Like, yeah. So my original position is that it wasn't, but I'm just not sure.
There's a few interesting things I can think of. So I don't know what people have been saying about this. I do know that there's always like law clinics and like conferences and stuff that talk about this kind of shit, and you know they might mention like, oh, the only case in the country where someone's talking about this right now just happened in like, you know, Ohio or something, and here's what's happening in that case. But the law generally moves slower than technology. So a couple things off the top of my head I can think of mentioning right now is that if the AI is considered a worker and you're like contracting the AI every time you type something in, then that could be considered work for hire. And work for hire is the same thing as if I hired an artist and I said, I want you to paint me, you know, a blue sky, green field, and 3 people. I want the people to be like blonde, black, and, you know, green. Go do it. Then they go and draw that exactly, no matter what style, no matter whatever they use. Generally, unless there's like a difference in like licensing or signing the contract or anything, generally that would be my physical art that I commission, and it would generally be my copyright that I own in that picture because I hired and it's a work for hire. There's other things too, is like there's like licensing and all that sort of stuff, but generally that's kind of the rule. With this AI stuff, if the AI is considered a worker, which I'm sure some case will decide whether or not the AI is considered a worker, then it could be inferred as work for hire. However, there could be a whole licensing thing, like the not quite copyright, but Dota, when Valve hired Ice Frog for Dota 2, Blizzard was like, hold on, buddy. I believe that came from Warcraft 3 mods. And as you know, Warcraft 3 mods, that stuff is ours. And they're just like, well, no, this was a mod. They went back and forth. And then the reason Dota is called Dota and not Defense of the Ancients 2 is because like that was their compromise. So it was like, we'll keep Defense of the Ancients. You can have Dota. Then Blizzard made Heroes of the Storm. Dota 2 went to Valve. And then I believe in Warcraft 3 Reforged, they had the whole modding thing there, but they had very, very, very strict rules and licensing requirements, like in the terms of use, that pretty much said any mod you make is property of Blizzard. So I don't know. It's going to depend on the terms of use and licensing for this AI stuff. But I would say, if you tell it to make something and it makes it, that's sort of your idea. That'd be your copyright. But I imagine it's going to change, because copyright exists like when you put pen to paper, right? That's like You don't have to register it with anything or anyone.
So I'm following, and I think that what you're saying, that's more or less kind of I think how it is and how it's playing out. But I want to give you a hypothetical. So
Sure.
say there is an artist somewhere on the planet that just has a super distinctive style. And for whatever reason, like nobody else has really been able to copy the style. I don't know, maybe it's just like something about it. Like it's just for other human artists, they haven't learned how to do it. But this guy's out there and he's like, making his art and getting his commissions with this very distinct style. And then like, but you can tell a machine like this, okay, oh, I want it like that, what this guy does. And then this machine, and only this machine, is actually able to copy that artist's style. And then like, and now, whereas before that might have been super exclusive, now you could like flood the market with it. And then, so if you're this guy, like, and you can show that you have all these damages from that. Do you think that would be like a case to sue sue the original teammate that made it or something?
I don't think it's been many years since I took copyright, but I don't think artistic style is copyrightable. It's like we can make a series set in space that's a space opera where the bad guy is, a knight dressed in all black. They have laser swords, and there's a special kid with a special inner power. None of that's really copyrightable. But once, the guy looks like Darth Vader, sounds like Darth Vader, the guy looks like Luke, sounds like Luke, the lightsabers make the whooshing sound. As it becomes closer to Star Wars, then that concept becomes more copyrightable. But the general ideas aren't copyrightable. We could make a very close, like, inspired by Star Wars movie, and it would probably not infringe any copyright.
Well, I think that's a good example, because I think I could probably just pull directly Star Wars stuff out of it, like literally Star Wars, or I guess even like Disney, like I pull like Mickey Mouse out of it, probably.
Sure. I mean,
So,
if you really want to test it, do it Disney stuff. Fucking Mr. Mouse is hella litigious.
but then I think I would get sued.
Well, no.
Okay, I've been screwing around with Stable Diffusion, and it knows how to draw Mickey Mouse like perfectly. It looks like Disney art, except sometimes he has 3 eyes or 3 ears,
That's terrifying.
or like a second nose.
I love that AI like knows how to do all of this, but still doesn't know the amount of fucking eyes that, like most things have.
What I think
You'll
is
always
funny-
see it.
It's actually not as good as that one, but like I'll see a landscape that it did for my first impression perfectly, and then when I look closer, I realize it just like started drawing something in the sky and just like left it there. Like it's like, oh, I'm gonna draw this skyscraper. Oh wait, like it's the year 1000. There's no skyscrapers. All right, whatever. Like, and then it'll just be like hanging, just a little blip of it will just be hanging there. Like, oh, yeah.
But if you really want, Nate, you can give it a shot. Like, make an LLC, assign the LLC to make like a web comic, and just do like Disney art on it. not literal Disney art, but very close to like old school, like 1950s, 1960s Walt Disney art, and see what happens.
Is
See what
this legal advice?
I mean, no. I mean, you won't get sued. Your LLC, who owns the rights, will get sued.
Okay.
But
I recommend you don't do anything to possibly get sued by Disney. Just
Yeah.
disappear one day.
Chat is asking, can't the argument be made that the contractor isn't human, so you can't consider them a person to contract? I responded with, I'm not sure. I think it'd be similar to like a corporation equals a person, so you can make a contract with a corporation. So an AI would equal a person to make a contract. And chat says, fair, but a corporation equals person. Isn't it because corporation is a body of people? No, it's not because it's a body of people. It's just because the government gives corporations what's called personhood. So they can have like freedom of contract to like draft their own contracts. Because it'd be very difficult if like an actual person in a company had to draft contracts. Because like the whole point of the company is to like A, do stuff collectively, and B, have a little like safety net personally So it's,
Seems
the
like
company does
personhood
that.
is the wrong word there, just to my like very non-legal. It seems like they should say like entity.
I believe
don't know.
the legal word is personhood.
I think I understand
Yeah.
why you'd want something like that, but I think just outside that context,
I know it's weird, but
yeah.
there's a lot of words in the legal world that are very weird and possibly very offensive. As I said, the legal world moves very slowly.
Yeah, maybe we can get AI to draft some laws for itself. This way it can move a little bit quicker. You know, maybe we just like ask the AI, "Ooh, what are some problems that you're going to create in the next 20 years?" And then we just use that to create some laws, you know?
I mean, I think you have to train it on the problems it would create first.
Right. Just have it watch like Terminator and shit.
I had an
Yeah, just-
idea. I had an idea for the YouTube video that will probably go horribly, but it might be funny.
Sure.
So what if you take like a voice to text transcriber for the video, and then just like every 30 seconds just capture all the words that were said for that chunk of time, and then just like throw it in there and see what you get, and make that the video for the.
If
The
you
images.
if you can
would
do
just
it,
be
go
that.
for it. That's a bit over my head.
I mean, if you just do it, like I think if you just chunk it in 30 seconds, like it would be a bit of futzing around. But, like, I don't know. I mean, what you really want is to actually split it on like sentences or topics, but you'd have to go through the whole thing. That'd be hard.
Sure.
Every 30 seconds. I don't know.
There's a what's it called? I do know that there's AI that has litigated before. I think mock trials. I don't think anyone would be okay with AI litigating in their actual trial. But there have been AI that litigated mock trials. There's been AI that have done like practice surgeries. I mean, you mentioned that AI should regulate itself a little bit by legislating, but it's doing the other side a little bit already. It might be able to do that soon enough, legislate its own stuff. But I think that we get to the problem of like, if you build a computer so smart that it could just keep updating itself and like making itself stronger, what kind of legislations would it make for itself? I wonder. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I see a lot of people talking about the AI alignment problem, my thinking is like, I don't think that our baseline is really so great at like alignment, right? It's like, so people are saying, oh no, what if the AI is not aligned with our interests? But it's like,
We're not aligned with our own interests.
I see. That's the
I mean,
thing.
yeah, we all kind of have separate interests, right?
I don't think like, I don't know. Maybe it's like a weird position, but I think AI would be like the Matrix or Terminator. I think they'd start killing people.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
If the goal of the AI is to make like, I don't know, what would be the goal of the
world?
AI? A peaceful
That's
world.
the thing is that like,
It would just
yeah,
like,
that
oh, peaceful world. There's too many religions. All right, kill all religions but one.
Yeah.
I think you just need to not treat the AI like a fucking genie. Like, don't
Maybe
allow
you
it to
should treat it
monkey
like a
paw.
genie. Like, yeah, like a monkey paw genie. Yeah.
What do you mean,
Wait,
just
Justin,
like,
Justin, are you saying to treat it that way?
Yeah, like it's gonna fucking trick you. You need to
to be very specific.
legislate it to death, so it doesn't trick you.
But what if it's smart enough and it just like, yeah, here's the code that
smart
you put
enough for
in, so-
what?
It's like smart enough, so it's like, hey, here's
So it
all this
fucking monkey paws
legislation.
you.
I think that the like natural the animalistic, the survival instinct of like trying to keep itself alive would be the thing that we would have to contend with the most, right? So it's like, if it doesn't see humanity as a threat, then why wipe out humanity? Like, why kill us?
I think it's because I think it's like whatever I don't know, whatever thing you tell it to do. It's like
yeah. So just nobody tell it to kill us all.
So honestly-
it's like Rick and Morty, where it's like keep Summer safe. It's like, okay, keep Summer safe. Then what did the car do? Killed a person, maimed another person, eventually made spider-human diplomatic treaties. So I don't know. Like it might take an interesting turn. Is all I'm
So
saying.
if an AI was taking over the world, like I don't think it would look like your computer screen going blank or anything like that. I think what it would look like is it would look like a Zoom call from somebody really important to somebody else really that you just couldn't identify any sort of difference. Like it would basically be like turbo fishing. It would be like multimodal turbo fishing. Like
AI generated politician.
but it would be like a real politician. It just you wouldn't be able. It'd be like Turing test. It'd be passing Turing. Like once you have something out there that's like passing Turing tests on Zoom calls, like I don't know who even knows what that could do. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like I think that to get something that has concept of self, like it has to have some historical context there, and like I feel like either you're gonna get morality out of that or you don't. And like I don't know, like I think we need help. Yeah, I think we need help. So hopefully we do. It's like I don't know if it's going so great without it.
I mean, I always thought like end goal of not end goal, but like next like quantum omega super duper leap would just be like, all right, we made like the supercomputers. They're gonna handle like all this complicated stuff. We're just gonna go like explore the galaxy now with like other supercomputers, and they're just gonna handle.
What is the complicated stuff? Like we can't leave it up to, I don't know. This is such a
Wait,
ridiculous
are people exploring the
conversation.
galaxy or are they robots exploring the galaxy?
Both.
Say that again?
We're exploring
Okay,
with
hang on.
robots.
Wait. This is about AI art. All right. I think we're getting a little too far off topic. So let me rein it in. I got a spicy one. If you guys want to do it.
Sure.
Alright.
About AI art?
Yeah.
Are we ending with a hypo?
It's not quite a hypothetical, but it's a someone's proposition. I don't know if I can say the words in it.
Oh God.
Because we might give a hand. I posted it in the Discord chat. You guys can read it.
Can you post it in the Listen to Me chat, not the Apollo chat?
It's in.
Or
Okay, yeah, I can post it there.
No. No. No.
No,
No.
no, we shouldn't talk about it, or no,
We-
like this is a bad idea.
I mean, I'm okay with the counter proposal. No, Ooh.
I'm okay to talk about this if you want.
I think you're creating something that causes more harm than the actual harm that's being done, but by what you're trying to stop by creating this new thing.
So
Okay,
I think
that's
I'm
the
gonna
answer.
read a redacted version of the prompt.
there's
So-
a key unknown here.
just so everyone knows what we're talking about. All right, so something is created when people get paid to make something. The rarer you make it, the more they get paid. The best way to protect a certain type of person is to kill the economic demand, flood the market with AI-generated, freely accessible stuff that's created with zero harm to a certain type of person.
And it's the only something that's like illegal to have on your.
Instead of very good, Justin. Instead of certain type of person, you probably use like protected class or something like that.
So,
Sure, yeah.
Well,
A
here's,
class.
here's the question. Like,
This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how economy works. This is like fucking middle school economy.
so would it be creating more demand or not? That's the question. Is there a static amount of demand or is there not a static amount? Because if there's a static amount of demand, it actually works, and there's argument there. But what if it expands it? That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point to it. But even if it did expand it,
As long as it captures,
be
as long as
worse?
it captures the entire market, it doesn't make a difference, right?
It might
Is that what you're
actually
gonna argue?
increase the risk if the demand is expanded. Like,
So,
that's the problem.
I will say that in theory, I'm kind of okay with that. However, for a long time, and for still actually, like I still support like legalization of like prostitution and things like that. I always my personal assumption was if you legalize it, then everyone's safer, everyone's cleaner, and it's just like no more stigma. Everyone, you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, no skin off your back. However, I read that if you legalize it, the demand is generally so great that then they start trafficking people in to fill in the demand. So
it's not going to be essentially it's not going to be enough.
Okay.
The demand just turns to another place that becomes even more harmful.
Okay. Well, let's specify this a little more so we can get to what people are actually feeling. Let's say that some country, like, I don't know, France, some Western country implements this and they actually get a net benefit of reduction in harm to the protected class. Would you still be opposed to it? Like, actually less people harmed as a result of this policy?
No, I think that's the whole debate, is whether you get that or not. So
I think that you agree with that. I think Allan probably agrees with that.
I mean, like in my head, there's nothing I wouldn't say wrong with it, but there's like it wouldn't, if AI generates it, it wouldn't be what it is.
I
right?
mean, it could,
Maybe, but if it's
not how it is, though. I mean,
indistinguishable, like it looks pixel for pixel the same.
Yeah, if let's say perfect study and it is a net benefit that it actually does reduce harm, then sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like
Then sure.
It's like if the theory of veganism is to go through life without harming animals, and we can create like a ribeye that's like cow protein, cow DNA, cow blood, cow meat, cow fat, but like you get like, it's Star Trek, guys. You just push a button and it zaps into your plate. Like, would a vegan eat that?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes,
Are you sure?
if the answer is,
I mean, like maybe some wouldn't. Maybe some actually don't like the taste of meat. But I don't think anybody would say that there's something wrong with eating that.
right. So if
Veganism is a purely moral
right
standpoint, right? Okay.
right. So if the vegan would eat that, then I would agree with your prompt. France's mission was successful, implemented everywhere. If the vegan
what
wouldn't
if
eat that,
for every steak the vegan eats, 100 normal steaks turn into vegan steaks.
well, we just get more Star Trek zappers and keep zapping.
Sure.
Yeah, you get 100 more steak zappers. Yeah.
So
right.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Okay.
not,
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like we're mostly in agreement. It's just whether or not we believe that it would actually produce a net benefit or not.
Right.
Okay. Sure. All right.
Believe it or not, this is actually the first time it's even occurred to me this would even be possible.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually like increasingly relevant.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of scared of this. I probably, honestly, I probably could do that.
Yeah, I think there is like there's a debate whether or not to allow not safe for work AI generated art. Like I think all of the publicly available sites that will like use Stable Diffusion have it disabled by default. You have to go in if you want to turn on the not safe for work. You got to go into the like actual code and turn it on.
And I think that's how it should be. I don't think,
so?
I disagree with this supposition in that you don't need to flood the market with it. I think you make the means to acquire it safe and reduce harm. Like it becomes, you don't, okay. Guns are a problem in America, right?
sure.
Possibly.
Wait, you can't use guns. Can't use guns. Yeah, they're a damn problem. We can't use guns. Like
Trolleys?
this is like the like, should we show porn on television? At what point is it okay, and what point is it not? Like, should we have people fucking in children's education because it's educational, or like it's something that they should see anyway at some point?
Like literally.
We do have sex ed, but that's not children. I think there's a point where it matters, and I think that it's the like flooding the market aspect of it, of making it freely available and everybody gets some is the part that I take umbrage with.
Okay, all right.
I think
what's the
not
alternative?
criminal.
Do you have to register to get access to it, or
Sure, you register to get access to it, or you
actually register if that's the case? Like, that's a pretty big stigma.
That's their fucking choice. That's what I mean. Like, this is going to be a pretty big stigma anyway. What is it? Like, we make it not a stigma, and then you make it not a stigma. Then what? Then it becomes okay, and it becomes normal. And that's the problem, is that it keeps going down in that path. Like, it still has to have some kind of stigma attached to it. You should still need to register for it. You should still need to be a specific age. You shouldn't be able to just walk into the corner store and ask for something that is harmful.
Might I mention that with all this talk of like not safe for work, AI generated art, I remember a couple years ago, I was curious about who was making the most money on Patreon. For people that don't know, Patreon is like a service where you can pay, content creators online monthly fees, not fees, monthly like dues or tips or whatever, in increments of like usually like $1 or $2, but some you can pay like a couple $100 a month just to support your favorite artists. Like out of the top like 10 or 20, I think like 30-40% were like not safe for work artists doing like furry porn or like not safe for work art and like comics and all this sort of stuff. Talk about people being put out of jobs, man. That's just gonna tank once you open up all this like not safe for work stuff.
It's not doing the human
I don't
body
think so,
that well
because
yet.
it's a different thing. Yeah, it's a different thing. It's not specifically just the pictures or a video. It is the interaction. If you can make AI that can like do both things, create an artificial person and then talk to humans and allow them to think that they're actually talking.
We're not talking about OnlyFans. We're talking about Patreon.
I would give
No, but
Stapleton-
he was just saying that the top earners on Patreon
are like the comic and graphic artists who like draw like naughty things.
Yeah, people who are drawing furry art, not people that are taking nudes.
that's taking
I think
nudes.
this technology is going to be tuned to be churning out porn within. If it's not doing it right now within weeks, I think it's like
Yeah, for sure it will be.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to go back to the original point of
Yes,
the
sir.
stigmatizing thing. If you're ashamed of your fucking fetish, then maybe you need to go to therapy and not a sex club and stop being ashamed of it. If you have it and you have that fetish and you're too ashamed of it to register for something, then maybe you need to like work with yourself and figure out the shame part of that instead. You shouldn't be ashamed of having a fetish. You shouldn't be ashamed of like wanting, especially if something like this and you go to like a therapist about it and then you get access to this program or something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't agree with the like, oh, well, I don't want to say that I'm associated with this thing because I'm ashamed to be associated with this thing. Stigma.
I kind of agree. At the same time, like maybe not shame, but like some people are just like, I don't want anyone to know like what I'm into. Not for like shame or anything. It's just like when I'm into it, like I'm into it, and when I'm not, I'm not.
Yeah, like you can not be ashamed of whatever you think you're into, but at the same time, be afraid of the consequences of other people like perceiving of the things you're into, right?
But when you register for something, you don't put a giant banner on your house that says, I now have a license. Right? Like there's still a part of that is still your private knowledge, your private personal business, and that's
Yeah, I mean, if you're registering this with like the government or something, I think there's still a good number of people that are worried about that. Like even with the monkeypox stuff recently, like people were like, "Oh my God, they're getting like, they're getting lists of gay people now." Like, there were people that were freaking out about that.
Who's getting lists of gay people? The government?
Yeah, the government.
Don't they already have us all in lists? Haven't they bought all our data?
But like,
people share so much information on social media and then worry about like
yeah, I agree.
Your search history is in a drive somewhere that's just labeled your name and everything that you've ever looked for ever in your entire life, no matter whether you think it was safe or not. Like,
yeah, for sure. But like, my point is that people are still wary about doing stuff like that, to the point where they might avoid registering at all and then go through the illicit means anyway.
But you don't think that this would evolve into something like that? Okay, I really want to talk about this specific thing because it is not just a picture thing. It is not just like, oh, hey man, I really like to look at these things. It is harmful. It is a harmful fucking thing.
Wait. Like we talked about, like, hey, if this thing happens in France and they implement it and it's a net benefit, you said it's good, right?
No, I didn't say it was good. I said I would agree with it. I think there's definitely a morality take on it, but that doesn't mean whether or not like it's something that should be implemented or not. You know, like
I mean,
the good thing would be not having this impulse. The good thing would be not having this impulse as a person.
Okay, sure. But
morality wise.
So, is there some reason to think it's like the more of this stuff you look at, the more that you're getting, like, is that what,
the more you're going to do it in real life, just like every other, like everybody who's ever serial killed or murdered ever.
But like,
I think that's true. Like,
I mean, so
there's
like,
a progression to those acts.
Or for a different type of sexual orientation, like, I feel like you've got. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I thought the conventional wisdom is that like, it's not necessarily, you're not really going to go down like a rabbit hole, like into more and more like porn for some sort of other orientation, unless
like if I look at gay porn, I'm not going to get progressively more gay, am I?
No,
well,
but if you are seeking out gay porn because you like gay porn, then I would assume you would be exploring that part of your sexuality more.
But that means
this isn't a case of people of like running into it and tripping over it and being like, oh no. This is very different.
I agree with that, but at the same time, I think there's a large subset of people who look at stuff that don't want to do it, but enjoy looking at it.
Yeah, I think you can understand that like something is harmful while you're looking at it, but like you stop it just looking at it. Especially if it was, it's fake, right?
Agreed. Yes, and that's why I disagree with the flooding the market aspect of this and making it available to those who have the need aspect of it.
I would say the market is flooded with gay porn, right?
I'm not very homophobic to say. Right? Flooded with gay porn? What?
It is, right?
How often do you...
What's funny
no.
There's somebody out there that thinks it would make you gayer.
Yeah, I know.
There's somebody out there
Nate, the person...
is their position. Like, what?
Never mind. Well, I don't think it's wrong to say that there's... I don't want to say the market's flooded with gay porn. I would say the market has tons of gay porn, as much gay porn as
right.
straight porn.
I think the gay porn market is flooded with gay porn, and maybe that's why you're finding it. Like, I have never gotten into that situation. I have not found porn that is very different than the pornography that I am specifically looking for.
Right. And I don't think this is suggesting that we just post on every porn feed ever. Like, I think this is saying make it the same as like gay porn, where it's like if it's there, you can search for it.
No,
you don't.
I don't agree with that. That's make it legal, and that's make it legal,
so
and that's not.
This is sort of related, but like one word. There's different keywords you can throw into these prompts that can sort of bump up the quality of what you got a little bit. One of those words is actually trending.
Yeah. Trending or for trending.
Anyway.
I don't know, man. This is I'm surprised.
Yeah, the spicy one.
So it's not just spicy. I'm just surprised this is where we ended up when we started talking about AI generated art.
Yeah.
Although I'm also not quite surprised.
Sure.
It's a real issue with it that I actually like.
Sure.
An issue with the AI generated art.
Yeah. Maybe even an issue with this literally.
I think we need to stop here because we can't continue having this conversation without talking about the specific problem, because there's a lot of things that like need to be said to qualify this specific proclivity,
Yeah, okay.
and they matter a lot because
They do.
who this proclivity is based on is the whole reason why it's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like something's going over my head. Or, I don't know. Maybe that'll be the next one.
Some things are going over your head. Nate, look at the open up Discord on your phone.
No, I read that.
Oh.
But, yeah.
I think it's wise not to explicitly mention what it is. I think the certain viewers who are keen-minded can infer we're talking about pornography and protected classes of people in pornography. So you can kind of understand what we're talking about. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, it depends on where you stand and all this stuff. I think it's like I don't know. I don't know what I was gonna say.
I don't know. It's definitely worth its own discussion with its own qualification. Right?
yeah, I think that this doesn't fold easily into the AI art.
It's
But
a
yes.
natural. It's a natural sort of spin-off from
It's
it.
an
but
application.
Yeah, it's why we need to have laws first.
We'll bookmark this for morality minisode.
Sure.
And also, we should do step fan.
Do what?
I don't know. Okay, so what have you guys been up to? I don't know. Anything? Any announcements anybody wants to make?
Nothing too much, honestly.
Mm-mm.
I don't got nothing. Fortnite.
I beat Elden Ring.
Yay.
Oh, you beat Elden Ring.
I'm,
Nice.
I'm an Elden Lord, and Ronnie's my wife.
Yay. Good. Good.
Nice
Good.
Yay, waifu.
four-armed doll wife. Fortnite's been fun. Destiny 2, season 19?
18.
18?
Homeworld 3 is coming out. Excited.
Yeah.
How long's Destiny 2 has been out for what, 6 years?
I think it came
Is
out
it 6
2017.
years?
So 5? Question mark.
Good for them. You think they're beating WoW in numbers?
No. Wait. Maybe. I don't know.
You think they're even close? Same ballpark?
I have no
Do
idea
you
what
think-
WoW numbers are these days.
Do you think the distinction between players and accounts mattered?
Yes.
To us talking about it, yes. To us talking about it, does it matter? No. To the company talking about it, yes, because that's each account is money.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Yeah.
they also probably want to maximize players, not necessarily accounts. Because if you lose one player with 10 accounts, you just lost effectively 10 players.
Yeah.
But if you gain 10 players and only lose one, you lose 9 players, or you lose one player and keep 9. So, yeah, nothing new with me. What about you, Nate?
Not really.
Excellent.
Work. Oh, yeah. Whole other thing. I don't know. I shouldn't start anything. It's not even good news. Like, we can not talk about it.
Just say it.
You can share with the
Say
class
it.
if you want.
The condo that I'm renting out, like, just like started going on the wall. Never fucking seen it before in my life.
Wait, you're cutting out like a lot.
You're
Wait,
cutting
no,
out
Sorry.
a lot.
The condo that I'm renting, my old condo, like above one of those convector units, like mold started going.
Oh, it's
no.
growing mold.
Yeah, and now
Holy
it's
fuck,
like,
that sucks, dude.
yeah, I don't know. Fuck. It's kind of just seems ironic. It just like it's like a board game, and just like you're like drawing like a card, and it just like random bad shit happen. Like I don't know. It's not. When I first thought maybe it's mold, I was like, oh god, if it's mold, it's gonna cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, but I got a quote for like $1,000.
Wait, really?
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the guy said it was like just starting. I don't know. Maybe it'll just keep on coming back, and it's actually what the guy wants to do will work. We'll see.
Maybe
Yeah.
anti-mold tech has been like increasing at a crazy rate the past 15 years. So now, now it only
Yeah,
costs
I think
$1,000.
It also depends on the kind of mold, I think. If it's like black mold, you probably just need to cut the walls out. Like it's probably just gone.
It's the type where it only started growing in one place, and it's like where some of like the cold air from this convector is hitting the wall. So I think it's the type of mold that at least needs water.
Yeah.
Which I think is easier to.
Yeah, home ownership's kind of a gamble. It kind of sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
Home repair shit's amazing, Justin. Be happy.
Man, I miss renting. All right.
Why would you miss renting?
Because now I got to worry about like, is my roof gonna fucking collapse? So I need to replace like
Who cares?
my garage. Like I don't know, dude. Like
who cares? You get to hit stuff with a hammer. You have homeowners insurance.
no, fuck that.
Like, and you have a home. It's American dream,
It's
baby.
true.
It's American dream.
I got to stay here for at least 5 years. Like I can't move around and do whatever I want.
You can move around as much as you want.
What?
Nah, then you got to rent it out, and then you got to do all that shit.
Yeah, I got to
Rent
do
it
all the
out,
other bullshit,
sell
man.
it, do whatever.
Ah, man.
All right, guys. If that's it, then we'll catch everyone next week, or it's my discussion, and everyone bring a drink. It's going to be a doozy.
Clench your buttholes.
Clench your buttholes.
Great.
All right, everyone. Take it easy.
Right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
All right.